Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel Dr.Sreenivas Medical Concepts and my FB page Dr. Sreenivas Concepts. This is Dr. Sreenivas, neurologist from Rajahmundry, Andhra Pradesh, India. I'm also the medical author of the books Focused Neurology and Exam Oriented Clinical Neurology. My email is 3klpm@gmail.com. We are talking about ischemic stroke, and today we are going to discuss the early signs, the signs of early infarction. So ischemic stroke part 23, signs of early infarction part 3. So what are all these signs of early infarction? Person comes with clinical manifestations of stroke and we need to pick up the signs of early infarction on neuroimaging. So what are all the important signs of early infarction? The important signs of early infarction are loss of gray-white matter differentiation, and sulcal effacement. So we know that the outer part is the gray matter and the inner part is the white matter where we have the tracks running. They have different Hounsfield units, HU units, so they have different densities. But when there is edema, cytotoxic edema, because of the swelling, the Hounsfield unit changes and therefore there will be loss of gray-white matter differentiation. So because of the swelling, cytotoxic edema, because of the swelling, the HU unit, Hounsfield unit changes, so there's not going to be any differentiation of gray matter or white matter according to HU Hounsfield units. So there will be loss of gray-white matter differentiation because of cytotoxic edema. Same thing applies to the sulcal effacement also. We have gyri, the swelling, and then the fissure going inside, which we call it as the sulci. So when there is again cytotoxic edema, the sulci, there will be effacement of sulci. So it also appears there is big effacement of sulci. So the two important signs of early infarction are loss of gray-white matter differentiation and sulcal effacement. So we do not have any differentiation between the gray matter and the white matter. So because of infarction and cytotoxic edema, there is cellular swelling which is present both in gray and white matter because it is cytotoxic edema. Since there is edema in both gray and white matter, there is loss of gray-white matter differentiation, and the presence of edema in sulci leads to sulcal effacement. So because of infarction and cytotoxic edema, there is cellular swelling which is present both in the gray matter as well as white matter because it is a cytotoxic edema, unlike vasogenic edema. So in cytotoxic edema is present both in gray and white matter, so the Hounsfield unit changes, so there is loss of gray-white matter differentiation. Likewise, because of the presence of edema in the sulci, it appears effaced, so there is sulcal effacement. The other two important signs of early infarction are disappearing basal ganglia sign and loss of insular ribbon or insular ribbon sign. Here they appear slightly hyperdense, basal ganglia and insular ribbon. But again, because of the cytotoxic edema, these areas are devoid of collateral blood supply and they make it hypodense. Again, so it becomes hypodense. So the disappearing basal ganglia sign, the basal ganglia generally appears slightly hyperdense, and the insular ribbon also basically appears slightly hyperdense, but because of cytotoxic edema, these areas are devoid of collateral blood supply, making it hypodense because the Hounsfield unit changes. So the disappearing basal ganglia sign and the loss of insular ribbon sign. The other important sign is the dense artery sign. Here you can see the hyperdense MCA. You can see the hyperdense, the white colored MCA. So acute dense artery signs, acute clotted blood appears hyperdense on CT in early infarction. If the acute clotted blood is seen in the MCA, we call it dense MCA artery sign. So this is the dense MCA artery sign. So these are all the signs of early infarction. So summarizing all the signs of early infarction, we have first Loss of gray-white matter differentiation, because the cytotoxic edema appears both in gray matter and white matter, so there's loss of gray-white matter differentiation. There is sulcal effacement because the edema appears in the sulci also, so it becomes effaced, so that's sulcal effacement. The basal ganglia is generally hyperdense, but because of the edema and loss of blood supply, it becomes hypodense, so it appears as if the basal ganglia has disappeared, so disappearing basal ganglia sign. Likewise, the insula slightly appears hyperdense, but because of the edema and decreased blood supply, they appear hypodense, and therefore this is also known as insular ribbon sign. And because the clotted blood, the acute clotted blood appears hyperdense, especially if it is an MCA, because it's hyperdense artery sign. So these are all the signs of early infarction. So this is a summary of the signs of early infarction: loss of gray-white matter differentiation, sulcal effacement, disappearing basal ganglia sign, insular ribbon sign, and hyperdense artery sign. So any person who comes with stroke, who presents early, we have to look for all these signs on neuroimaging. So I hope you enjoy listening to these wonderful concepts of signs of early infarction. The other important concepts of clinical neurology I put in a book called Exam Oriented Clinical Neurology, written by me, Dr. Sreenivas. This book is very useful for students appearing for clinical neurology exams. So if interested, this book could be purchased. The other important concepts of neurology, especially the theoretical part, I put in a question answer format, which will be very useful for students appearing for oral exams. So this book is available online from all leading booksellers, including Amazon. So if interested, this book could be purchased online. So if you have really enjoyed these concepts, please like and share the link with your friends. But please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dr. Sreenivas Medical Concepts, which is India's leading neurology educational YouTube channel, and my web page, Dr. Sreenivas Concepts. Thank you. Bye.